The Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast is brought to you by ITL Coaching and Performance. You can find them at itlcoaching.com. ITL Coaching and Performance exists to build a community of athletes set on reaching goals and serving the community. They have a passion for helping people achieve their goals and dreams. ITL coaches are real people with phones, emails, and the desire to spend time with you during your training. They are vested in ITL athletes. ITL takes a communal approach to coaching, so there's always someone available to answer questions and to help adjust the training schedule. An ITL coach will be glad to meet with you to chat about your goals and find the best plan to help you meet those goals. Again, their website is itlcoaching.com. The Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast is also brought to you by Blue Pineapple Travel. Blue Pineapple Travel can be found at bluepineappletravel.com. Blue Pineapple Travel are experienced travel agents who help you design the perfect trip. They are all well-traveled and knowledgeable, and they will be your advocates from start to finish. The agents at Blue Pineapple Travel love to help people plan their travel. Their goal is to match you with the trip that you want. Whether you're looking for relaxation or adventure, traveling solo or with a group, inside the U.S. or abroad, they are there to match you to the trip for you. Blue Pineapple Travel will help you curate all of the travel information out there to create the exact vacation that you want. Again, their website is bluepineappletravel.com. And finally, the Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast is brought to you by SlayRX. You can find them at www.slayrx.com. SlayRX is a sports nutrition company that makes products for athletes, team sports, and anyone that trains or works outdoors. SlayRX was founded by an endurance athlete and University of Georgia food scientist who was unhappy with the choices he was offered on course in long course triathlons. He started making his own mixes, and now you can enjoy those same mixes. SlayRX offers differing levels of electrolytes in their hydration products, and you can get them with or without calories. You can either take their online test at slayrx.com, or you can be tested in their laboratory to determine the exact amount of liquid and electrolytes that you need to be consuming while racing. In addition to hydration products, SlayRX offers fueling products like their product Diesel, which is available with or without the optimal level of caffeine that is scientifically proven to legally enhance performance while limiting GI upset and diuretic impact. If you're looking for alternative gels, try SlayRX Spark Plug, a Pop Rocks-like powder that combines the same electrolytes that are in their other products, encapsulated caffeine, and quickly absorbed carbohydrates. It comes in a plastic tube so it can be carried while running, and it will work to enhance and fuel your alertness, general happiness, and performance. Remember, tell them the Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast sent you by using the coupon code PLEASANT2020 at checkout on their website, and you'll get 10% off anything you purchase there. That's slayrx.com, PLEASANT2020. Test, don't guess with SlayRX. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast possible. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast brought to you by ITL Coaching and Performance, Blue Pineapple Travel, and SlayRX. My name is George Darden. I'm an endurance athlete and coach here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a father of twin boys. I'm a college professor, and I've been doing endurance sports for about 30 years. And I have with me two very special guests that I am psyched to have with us. Chrissy Blaisdell Euler, welcome.
Thanks, George. Glad to be here.
So I'm glad you're here. Chrissy is one of the first adults I ever coached. She went on to bigger and better things. So she's going to tell you a little bit about her athletic past and her athletic present here in just a few minutes. And then Ben Holiday is back. Ben, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be back.
So Ben, you'll recall, was with us talking about the Cruel Jewel 50, which is not 50 miles, it's 56 miles, the brutal trail race that he did last year. So we'll look forward to hearing what he's up to as well. But our topic tonight is indoor cycling platform. So you'll recall a couple of months ago, I put out a call to any volunteers saying, please help me out. Let's test out some different online cycling platforms here while we're all locked inside our houses. And both Chrissy and Ben very graciously reached out to me. And so thanks, both of y'all. I can't tell you really how much I do appreciate your coming on the podcast and talking about all the different platforms that we all tried out over the course of the past month here. So we're going to tell you about some of our favorites. We're going to offer some special preems to the different platforms here that we all tried out. But I figured the best thing to do is actually start with some introductions here. So Chrissy, why don't you take a minute or two here, tell us about your background, tell us about your cycling setup and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's been about 12 years in endurance sports. 7 of those, or about 7 years ago, started working with George when I wanted to do big, scary things that I never thought I would do, including marathons, trail races, half and full Ironmans. And then more recently, in the last couple of years, have moved on to standalone bike races, a number of formats there, and have been using indoor cycling to support a lot of that. Have been using dumb trainers, as they might say, and then for the last 5 years or so, have been using Wahoo Kicker, and had typically run that through my iPhone. A lot of those workouts, to get the specificity, I used Trainer Road, and that meant that I would just run it on my phone and then watch a lot of junk on Netflix with captions and black music, and that was really, really great. And I had heard about platforms like Zwift, but had never got out of my comfort zone with them. So this was a great opportunity for me to do that. Since there aren't any events on the calendar, I'm not training for anything specific except for to keep up on group rides and join the local crits, which have been virtual. So I've been doing some of that, which has been a lot of fun. But generally speaking, the progression with this, I've gone to a model where I'm still on the Kicker, but I'm using my MacBook or my iPhone to pull up a lot of these platforms and apps and then mirror those using Apple TV. So I get the full engaging screen experience, since that now exists with those. And it's kind of changed my world a little bit, so to speak, in an exciting way. So I've enjoyed that. The other change that's really presented is before, when I would use Trainer Road, I only ever thought about my equipment if I was doing short, hard intervals like VO2 max versus a long, like 20 to 30 minutes at 80 or 85%, then I might choose a bike. But this has definitely changed that, where based on the dynamics of the platform, I will exclusively use one bike versus the other. Just a teaser, we'll get into the specifics when we start to talk about the platforms, but definitely a lot more decision making here.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for that. We should also say that, Chrissy, you live in Austin, Texas.
Yes, I do. The cycling scene here is pretty excellent, and that's one of the big reasons that I went to pure cycling. I've always been a victim of FOMO, or fear of missing out, and so it's just hard not to get sucked in, because within 3 to 5 miles of my house there are group rides nearly every day, and they're all pretty amazing. So it's been a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Ben, your turn. Tell us a little bit about how cycling fits into your overall athletic history and present, and of course what your setup is.
Sure. I started back in about 2008 doing triathlon, and kind of got into the Ironman scene, and did about 11 of those and about 18 half Ironmans over a course of about 10 years or so. Last year I took a little bit of a detour and kind of went off onto trail racing. Did the Cruel Jewel, as you remember from our podcast that we did, and just decided to go back to triathlon again this year, but then COVID hit and took away all my triathlons for the year. So I was planning to do Challenge Roth, and I was going to do the Chattanooga 70.3, and both of those got postponed till next year, which I'm probably not going to do next year. But anyway, over the course of that period of time, I'd done a lot of stuff on trainers. Over the years, started with just a little Magneto trainer, a little $100 thing that my coach had recommended I get. Hated it. It was so hard. It was noisy. The gearing was terrible. And then over the years, I was just looking for a better option. So I tried everything. I went from there to a CompuTrainer, did various other trainers, trying to find something that was a little bit easier so I could ride indoors. And eventually got to a Wahoo Kicker, which is what I have now. I'm actually on my second Wahoo Kicker, and pretty much devoted to that platform. My setup basically consists of I run Zwift on a Microsoft Surface, which is what I'm using now to do this Zoom meeting, and which obviously it doesn't work very well for Zoom meetings, but works better for Zwift. So anyway, but and I also use my old iPhone and my new iPhone, and I use an iPad. So I have a lot of little different things that I do. My old iPhone basically runs Zwift Companion. My new iPhone runs Discord, which I use to chat to people while we're doing events or doing rides or whatever. And then also we do, I track things on Zwift Power, which is another platform that kind of tracks things on Zwift itself. And so if you're in a race, it kind of sorts out things for you a little better than Zwift does. especially since a lot of the events I do are actually, the results are actually on Zwift Power and not on Zwift. And that's basically, that's kind of the history of where I'm at, how I got to the point of, and how I use indoor cycling.
Right on. And so Chrissy, I know, still does a lot of group rides and so races outside and that sort of thing. But Ben, you exclusively train inside. Is that correct?
I have done, in 2018, I did 3 iron distance races, and I did 95% of my training was indoors for that. Now, since I moved up to the mountains, North Georgia in the Gaps. And so now I do a lot of riding up here. Like last year, I trained for 6 Gaps. So I was doing 1 to 2 rides in the Gaps up here a week. But then as soon as 6 Gaps was over, I went back indoors, and I've been indoors literally since then. I went all the way through the winter indoors, and was training, using through a Training Peaks training program that was structured, until the day that, I got the news that Challenge Roth was over. And then I started doing Zwift racing. So I started doing group rides and racing from that point.
Very good. Very good. So thanks for that. So me, I think most folks who have listened to the podcast have kind of pieced together at least a little bit of my bio, but I was a runner for a long time. And then the first year that I was married, I kept getting injured when I was running. And so my brand new wife said, well, why don't we get you a bike and I'll get a bike also, and let's try and do like a duathlon. And so I did a duathlon there in 2008. And I decided that I wanted to try and do only cycling for a while. And my wife decided to do only triathlon for a while, or to add a sport and do triathlon. And so I was a bike racer then from 2008 until 2011. And had some heavy crashes but rode thousands upon thousands of miles on my bike. Did some ultra races, did some crits, did some road races, all that sort of thing. And then in 2008, when I decided to move into bike racing, I actually started using a trainer then, and it was a dumb trainer, like Chrissy said. A traditional trainer is what I often will say instead. And then I added a power meter to my bike, and then that was really helpful when I was actually on the traditional trainer, because I was able to measure power, but I was still using a so-called traditional trainer, a dumb trainer. And then got into triathlons in 2011, and continued to use indoor workouts as a key component of my training on the bike. My coach, a guy named Will Dillard, who I hired in 2008, had given me indoor workouts in 2008, and I had started using them then, and they've pretty much been a feature of my cycling training all the way up until now. I did my last triathlon in 2015, but still cross-train a bunch on the bike, even though all my running, or all my events are running events. And so I haven't done an outdoor bike race or an outdoor race that involves a bike since 2015, but I've done a lot of racing online recently, as recently as an hour before this podcast started, as a matter of fact. So, so I've been doing a lot of virtual racing lately, because that's something that we're able to do now, and that I think all 3 of us have been doing a lot more of over the course of the last little while here. So I also have a Wahoo Kicker. I got it in towards the end of 2015 is when I got it, I pretty soon after that, I was an early adopter of the Sufferfest videos, and I would actually run them through Trainer Road. I was an early adopter of Trainer Road as well. And then Sufferfest kind of went off on its own, and I subscribed to Sufferfest. And so I've been a subscriber to Trainer Road for probably 5 years, and I use that a lot. I use Sufferfest a great deal as well. And we're going to talk about all of these. But I had tried out Zwift a little bit several years ago, and then have gotten a little bit more into it over the course of the last couple of months as we've been doing this experiment here. So we're going to talk about all of these things. But I've also become a fan of Full Gas, but that's why I raced today. But we're going to talk about all this stuff. So y'all ready to get into it?
Yep.
All right. Very good. Well, we should go through real quickly the ones we're going to talk about. And so if you're like holding out to hear about a particular one, the ones that we tried that we're going to talk about, and y'all let me know if I forget one. We're going to talk about Ruvi, Be Cool, Strava, or not Strava, Zwift, Full Gas, Sufferfest, and Trainer Road, right? Those are the 6.
Yep.
And there are many others. and that was actually one thing that I was struck by when we kind of said, okay, let's do this. And I started looking at how many are out there. There's a lot of different platforms out there. We're not even talking about Peloton tonight. And that was one that initially I kind of wanted to try out, but just in the midst of all the other things that are out there, and all the real cycling specific platforms that are out there, we ended up never really even getting to that one. So the first one we're going to talk about though is Ruvi. And the reason why we're going to talk about Ruvi first is because in the endurance sports world, they got a lot of attention when things started going virtual because they are the platform that Ironman chose to run their races. So Chrissy suggested that we should give every single one of them a preem. And so the preem that we're going to give to Ruvi is for best partnership. And actually, we should probably have you, Chrissy, since you're the one currently racing bikes, you tell us what a preem is.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that's used in the crit format of racing, which is a race loop that's typically a mile or shorter with a lot of typically 90-degree turns involved in it. And you do number of laps because you race that mile or so loop for, depending on what category you're racing in, maybe it's 30 minutes or an hour. And every several laps, they'll ring a bell and say preem lap. And if you complete that lap the fastest, you get some kind of prize, which might be a 6-pack of beer in the cycling world, or something of local and grassroots-esque. But it's just kind of those door prize-ish awards, but for the skill and ability level. So we thought it'd be a fun way to talk about some of these platforms and their merits.
Absolutely, absolutely. And because I think that we found, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I think that we found that there were pros and cons of all the different ones that we tried. There were definitely ones that were our favorites and definitely ones that we liked less, but I think that there were pros and cons of all of them. And so we're going to give Ruvi the best partnership preem because there are so many people that had no interest in Ruvi and didn't even really ride indoors all that much who signed up and subscribed to Ruvi in order to be able to compete in the Ironman virtual races. Yeah. So let's talk about things you liked and didn't like about Ruvi. So Ruvi, I talked about it a couple of months ago when it was first coming on. It is an online platform where they have filmed an actual ride and you're riding in actual space with pictures that looks like Google Earth. Something like that. And the grade changes and therefore the resistance changes on the bike as you're actually moving through space here. Chrissy, is that a good sort of description of it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good description. And one thing that is interesting to call out as somebody that came from trainer road, where almost everything I did was in erg mode, is the grade does change and you go through all of the gears on your bike, which impacts how you think about your equipment. But yeah, I think, George, that's a really good starting point for talking about Ruvi and why people are attracted to that platform.
Yeah, yeah. And so all three of us tried Ruvi. Ben, what did you think of Ruvi?
My first impression was that I had a lot of trouble getting it set up. I had some problems with it, my calibration of my trainer, and when I tried to look on the app, I couldn't find a way to calibrate. And it said basically, so when I went back online and did some more research after I got done, it said basically to go back to your trainer's app, and do it with that. So there was not an in-app calibration mode. So I had a little trouble the first time. Second time I did it, it was all right. And I rode a route, and it, like you said, it's kind of like riding a little bit on Google Earth. I think I had a car come by from the opposite direction. Yeah. And, if I slowed down, the car slowed down. If I sped up, the car sped up. It's just like it was playing a video. I never saw any other riders, although they indicated there were somewhere out there, but I never saw anyone. So I could, like speed up to catch up to them or see if I could catch them or anything like that. But it was very Google Earth-ish, was my impression. I think that first route that I tried to ride was actually the Ironman Boulder 70.3 route that they were using at the time as the only Ironman route. When I tested it, I think that was just before they did the Ironman deal where they started, doing the races on there.
Yeah, they have an option on there where you can actually choose an avatar, and the avatar will kind of like be out in front of you, and you can like chase it, which I had kind of mixed feelings about that. I think it's probably a good thing, and studies have definitely demonstrated that if you try and if you put an avatar out in front of you, you'll go faster. I found that it was sort of like when I first learned to drive a stick shift. and I didn't know how to just like drive softly in stick shift. And so like every time I would start, it'd be like, and I'd like take off. That's kind of way what I was on Ruby at first. And maybe it's because I've forgotten how to ride outside. I mean, both of y'all still ride outside, particularly you, Chrissy, but I felt like, I'd hit the base of a hill, and the power that it required for me to go up that hill on Ruby was significant. So I think that I really liked the scene, and one thing that I thought was cool about it is that they have a course that takes you up Alpe d'Huez. They have a course that takes you up some of these really iconic climbs that I'll probably never have the opportunity to actually ride my bike on in real life. But I felt like you'd come down a hill and you'd go over a bridge, and you start to go over a hill and you just dead stop at the bottom of the hill. And so there was something about the momentum about it that to me felt a little bit off. Christy, did you see that too?
Yeah, I noticed that, and I think they might have smoothed it out after a few weeks after I had started using it. Definitely noticed that you'd be flying down a hill at 8% grade on the descent, and then it would even just go to 2 or 3 on the next climb, and it felt like a very big switch in momentum. Versus trying the same thing on a different platform where you can kind of roll into the hill in a way that feels a lot more like true outdoor riding.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing I noticed too, that I felt like, and I haven't tried, and I haven't tried it since Ironman actually picked it up, and so I used it right before Ironman was actually using it, but I was actually really surprised that Ironman chose it for that reason, because to me it seemed like that their algorithm on Ruby was all about grade versus the power you're producing, and there was nothing taken into account for the actual momentum that you would be carrying coming off a downhill or something like that. And to me, that's so much a part of outdoor riding, is that you go down the hill and you swing, and then you kind of keep it going, and you get most of the way up a hill sometimes. And sometimes you can actually crush a short uphill by just standing up and just blasting the power and going over it. But there was no momentum like that. And that was one thing that actually really bothered me about Ruby, is that I felt like, with the time there on the screen and showing you the power and the speed and everything, I felt like I just kept losing the momentum. Ben, what do you think?
I would say I would agree with that. I felt like that when at least in my, I only rode it twice, but it just felt like when I went up a hill that was extremely hard, and it was a lot harder than it would seem like it should be. And it was better on the second time, and perhaps if I'd have gotten the calibration a little better, I might have had a better experience. And I have to admit though, since Ironman did the deal and I see everybody race on there, it's kind of tempted me to go back and try it again. But but I didn't pay any money, so I'm not sure I want to pay any money for that right now.
Best partnership, I'm telling you. I mean, there are people, there are lots of people who have no interest in riding indoors and would never consider Ruby, but they've signed up for it and at least gotten a taste of it via the Ironman virtual reality races, for sure. So yeah, like I said, I'm interested in it. I liked being able to. I like the scene. I actually didn't say this before. I run it on an iPad, and then I project the iPad onto a television, and so it's a little bit larger and maybe a little bit more immersive. So I liked the scenery, but the momentum thing was almost a killer for me. Yeah. So let's transition then to talking about one where I feel like they actually did get to get it right. And so Ben said he felt like he was on Google Earth on the Ruby, and so I'm interested to hear what he has to say about full gas. So let's talk a little about full gas. So full gas is similar to Ruby, but I think that they got it a little bit more right on full gas. So full gas does the same thing that Ruby does. They have pictures of courses, including some iconic courses that you go riding through. And it kind of gives you a heads up display on the sides of your iPad or on the sides of your screen. And the momentum and the resistance on your trainer changes based on, whether you're going up a grade or down a grade or something else like that. The big difference to me between full gas and Ruby, one was that full gas, the videos are just prettier. The videos are filmed at a higher quality, and they actually, you can film one if you're part of the full gas community, you can film one yourself and actually upload it, and they consider it, and then they will make it into a ride, which is pretty cool. So for one thing, most of the videos are 4K, and so they're just stunningly beautiful. But the other thing is, I feel like whatever the momentum algorithm is, they got it right in full gas. So Chrissy, what do you think?
I agree. The experience is you went through the terrain a lot more like riding outside. Even the way the videos were filmed and the particulars of the route felt more like going on a ride with a local in that area, turning on to side streets and bike paths and things like that you didn't see on kind of the iconic climbs that you experience with Ruby. I also really liked how there were iconic climbs on the course that you were doing. When you at the base of it, it would tell you how far to the peak of the climb and start you a countdown clock so that you were kind of timing yourself and racing against yourself, which kept me really focused and motivated on the climb. So I really liked that aspect of it.
Yeah. Ruby has they have their own built-in Strava segments essentially. And they actually said when Strava made their changes last week around leaderboards and that sort of thing, on the full gas, did I just say Ruby? I meant full gas. So on the full gas page, the founder of it, who is an Australian guy, who's a former pro cyclist, said, well, this doesn't really affect us all that much, even though, we tend to use leaderboard integration. We were planning on kind of starting our own mini Strava inside of Full Gas instead, where when you log in, you get to see all the Full Gas users who have done a particular segment on a Full Gas video, and you get to see what the leaderboard is and how you compare and all that sort of thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've seen they do something similar to that on Ruby, and relatedly, they will, when you look at a ride, it'll say how long it will take to finish, and I can't tell if it's average or best, but I'm always slower than the time.
On Full Gas, it'll tell you how long it took the person to record it. And so it'll say this is a 60-minute ride. It took 60 minutes to record. But then when you're riding it, if you're riding faster than the person who recorded it, it actually says down in the corner, you're going 1.2 times as fast as the person who actually wrote it, or you're going 0.85 times as fast as the person who wrote it. So you know it's going to take shorter or longer than what it actually was. Ben, what'd you think of Full Gas?
I would agree with exactly what you're saying. I felt like it was like they took Ruby's ideas and then just made it better. It was just a better quality. The ride feel felt really like it should be. I enjoyed it. And it still felt a lot like, riding on Google Earth, but it just felt more real. I enjoyed it more. It actually made me want to do Alpe d'Huez on it. So, cause I could, I would like to see the scenes that go with that. On Zwift, you can do Alpe d'Huez, but you don't see the real thing. So, but if this, you would actually be able to ride it and see it. And I think that would be really cool. I'd be curious to know, since I've ridden the one on Alpe d'Huez so many times, how it would feel to ride the same course on there and how long it would take on there, compared to that. And then we'd know how well the two did.
Right on.
At least on recording and reproducing that experience.
Right on. Yeah, this is the preem that Full Gas gets, by the way, is that it got George onto the iconic climbs. It's George's favorite. And I was kind of smitten from the start, because my favorite race of the year, my favorite cycling race of the year, is the Tour of Flanders. And the Tour of Flanders goes all over the Kappelmoer and over the Paterberg and the Koppenberg and all these things. And on my very first ride on Full Gas, I went over those climbs. And that was cool.
Nice.
And actually getting to see that from like a bike point of view, and then feeling how hard it was, like as we were going up those cobbled climbs and everything. That was great. A couple of weeks ago, I did Mont Ventoux on Full Gas. And Mont Ventoux is what a lot of folks, including Lance Armstrong, have said is the hardest climb they've ever raced on. But it was like 8%. And then by the time you get up to the top, you get above the tree line. And so it looks like you're finishing on the moon. But when you actually ride it, you get to see like it's not like you suddenly pass through and the trees are gone. Like you get to actually see that process happening. And it was a totally different experience, actually riding that climb. And I'm probably never going to ride that climb in real life. But I've ridden it now on Full Gas. And that's, I like that. I feel very fortunate for that. Yeah. So Full Gas definitely gets my vote for one of my favorites. We should also give it an honorable mention preem, by the way. It took second place in the preems because they had a really good partnership as well. They've partnered with Virtual Race Across America. And so the Race Across America, which is normally the 3,000 mile bike race that goes from Oceanside, California to Annapolis, Maryland, they're holding it virtually this year. And it's going to be entirely on the Full Gas platform. Initially, when Race Across America suggested that they were going to be doing it virtually, they said we're going to be on Zwift, and then they pivoted to Full Gas. And essentially, what it is, they have like 300 courses, and you just have to knock them all out, just one after another, after another, after another, over the course of 12 days, in your house. So, you gonna sign up, Chrissy?
It's tempting. I might have to, but if I was to do the iconic climbs, I think I would be most inclined to go back and do them if I was doing them virtually on Full Gas, just knowing the tension is more accurate. My husband tried to do Ventoux, or he did complete Ventoux on Ruby and said it was way harder than in real life, because we did it in real life last summer. Cool. Have something that felt real, I would probably pick Full Gas. If you do want to go on and do some of those iconic climbs, will feel a little bit more accurate.
And not to brush over that point, but that's a super important point you just said. You've done Mont Ventoux in real life, and you've done it on Ruby, and you said it was easier in real life than it was on Ruby.
My husband did it on Ruby. I've done some climbs on Ruby, but I was afraid to do one like that, just knowing that the tension of all the ones we tested, the tension feels hardest on Ruby. They did do a tour called Tour de Suisse, and it was, I guess, their version of something similar to what Full Gas is doing, and they did it about a month or so ago, and you would do 5 consecutive races. So I jumped into one, and the climbs were really, really brutal, with a lot of the grade on them. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Full Gas is it's similar to Ruby, but it's getting it right. Now that being said, Full Gas is newer. And so Full Gas has a lot of kinks in it. Ruby's user base just went through the roof as soon as we all got locked down and everybody was in their house, and particularly when Ironman announced that they were partnering with them. And so like the first couple rides I did on Ruby, they wouldn't sync to Strava for like 7 hours or something, and all the people in the Facebook group just lost their minds. But Full Gas actually has some real bugs in it still, and I think they're working it out. And I think that it's a small group of people that are actually, doing tech for it and everything. And I think it's gorgeous, and I think they have a great idea. But it's still kind of buggy, I would say, to be fair. Did y'all experience that too? I didn't have any bug issues, but I did notice how they kind of classified their rides into races. Sometimes it was just, it appears as you might be participating in a race, but you're really just riding a course that a race has been raced on. Or if you sign up for a group ride, I thought I would be riding with other riders virtually, but it's just a couple of guys who did a group ride and recorded that. So I think that they probably have some areas there of opportunity. But I did do one of their training sessions where you're kind of with a person or a coach that's training you through a structured workout, but outside. So it's not erg mode. And it was actually interesting to have to hit the power targets like you would if you were trying to execute a workout with intervals outside. I actually really liked it a lot more than I thought I would. So I also think that there are a lot of bright spots there that people haven't tapped into yet. But I didn't have any technical bugs with it. Right
on. What about you, Ben? Did you run into any technical bugs with it?
I didn't notice any. It just seemed like they had it right. I probably didn't test it enough to get to one, perhaps, but I didn't notice anything. It seemed to work pretty good.
All right. Very good. All right. Let's talk about Be Cool. So Be Cool is, by the way, BKOOL, Be Cool. And I dare say Be Cool has kind of a European feel to it. I don't know if y'all picked up on that as well, or if that's just me, but Be Cool offers simulated versions of a lot of these real places. And so Ruby and Full Gas offer the actual videos of places. And so you can actually ride and see the scenery, and you see, the tree line changing on Mont Ventoux and all that sort of thing. But Be Cool says, oh, you want to ride Mont Ventoux? Here it is. And they give you a simulated version of Mont Ventoux. And so it looks like Zwift, and you have a bot and an avatar, and they've created a world, but it's not actual scenery from all of those places. Now, that being said, Be Cool offers simulated versions of a whole lot of stuff. And so the preem that goes to Be Cool is that they have the most offerings. So they have all sorts of different places you can ride, like velodromes and mountains and trails and all that sort of thing, all of which are simulated again, though. But then they also have strength training built into their app. They also have yoga built into their app. They also have like spin classes built into their app and all sorts of things like that. So, Chrissy, I don't think you tried Be Cool, did you?
No, I didn't get a chance to try that one.
So Ben and I both tried it a little bit. Ben, what'd you think? I know you're a big Zwift guy, and we're going to talk about Zwift last, but what'd you think about Be Cool? Like trying to be a combination of the real stuff and Zwift.
Well, Be Cool was one of the, I think I rode a course the first time. I just rode it a little bit, and I think I was short on time that day. And so the next time I tried it and it brought me back again was the velodrome. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the velodrome. That was really cool because it was, I don't know, I've always wanted to race on one, and that's the closest I've ever come. So I got on there. I did 2 different races where it's, a certain amount of time or whatever, and you just kind of show up and you're racing whoever happens to be on the track at that time. But I thought it was really cool. It was fun. And I think the first one I actually won the race, but then the second one, I think I must have got on the D group or something on the first one. So I got in a harder group the second time, and and I didn't do quite so well. So, but anyway, it was definitely interesting and fun. That alone was, I'm like, man, I wish they had that on Zwift, because they don't have anything like that on Zwift. They do have a track on running on Zwift, but they don't have a velodrome yet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's kind of was my experience with it, was that I really liked that. That was, of all the things that we tried, that was the one thing that stood out to me, and that was unique. That was a unique experience.
Right on. Very cool. So I ended up having like this one-to-one experience with Full Gas and with Be Cool, because I got this promo popped up on Be Cool when I opened up the app, and it says, ride the Flandrian Classics. And I was like, yep, I will. I've already done, some of these, classic Flanders climbs and MERS in Full Gas. So now I'll do them in Be Cool, thinking that it was going to be something similar. And it puts me on a course that has, like simulated windmills and simulated paint on the road and everything, that mimics the undulations of the last 20 kilometers of the Tour of Flanders, but it's not the actual course. And so they've created a landscape that looks like Flanders, a simulated landscape that looks like Flanders, and they have the right grades there. And so it's changing, based on what the grades are and all that sort of thing. But you're not going up you're not seeing what the actual Kapelmoor looks like. You're riding up the simulated Kapelmoor, and to me that I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it as much. I wasn't as into it. And so I don't, and we talked about this at one point. I feel like there's a place where simulation like works, and there's a place where reality works, but there's something in the middle in between simulation and reality that doesn't work for me. And trying to simulate something real didn't work for me. And so I would just as soon ride in Zwift and have them have volcanoes and monkeys and lava snow and all these things like falling down on us, and just have it be sort of crazy and not real, or ride Full Gas or even Ruby and have the real stuff. But this sort of like halfway combination between half real and real, I just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So they do get an honorable mention for their partnership as well. Their most recent partnership is with World Tour Cyclists, and they're doing what's called the Challenge of the Stars. And they've got a lot of really good cyclists here. They got Chris Froome, Thomas de Gent, Warren Barguil, Vincenzo Nibali, Mads Pedersen, who's the current world champion, Caleb Ewan, lots of good sprinters. And they have this challenge where you can go on to Be Cool right now, and you can actually climb against the bots, against the simulated versions of Chris Froome and Warren Barguil and Vincenzo Nibali. Or you can do like a 1 kilometer time trial, and that goes into a sprint against Caleb Ewan and Mads Pedersen and some sprinters. And so again, it's cool they're partnering with those guys, and the bots that they've created for them. I mean, they're wearing the right uniforms, they're riding the right bikes and all that sort of thing. It's cool, but I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. Just didn't do it for me.
I got you.
Yeah. So, all right. Next one. Let's talk about Sufferfest real quick. So, Ben used Sufferfest a long time ago. I use Sufferfest still pretty consistently now. I just finished the tour of Sufferlandria with a couple of my friends last week, as a matter of fact. But Sufferfest is going to get the preem for the most dedicated users. And that doesn't mean like most in numbers. That means like in depth of dedication. Sufferfest has almost a cult of personality around people who buy into their storylines and the culture of the videos and all that sort of thing. And so I haven't seen in any of the other Facebook groups and that sort of thing I went to, have I seen people that love their platform as much as Sufferfesters love Sufferfest. Sufferfest, basically the way they set it up is it's a workout, and the workout is say 2 by 20 minutes or 15 by 1 minute with 1 minute rest or something else like that. But they layer over the top of the workout a pro tour race, and they almost always have a plot line within the race. And so you're trying to win the race, or you're trying to help this sprinter, or you're trying to stay on the back of this person as you're going across cobbles, or whatever it happens to be. And it tells you that story in order to inspire you to dig deep as you're going across these workouts. So for me, I feel like one of the cons of it, even though this isn't a problem for me, you have to kind of be a fan of pro cycling in order to really get the Sufferfest. Like if you don't know who any of these people are and you don't really like watching pro cycling, then you're not really going to be all that inspired by actually doing the Sufferfest. But I think the real pro of it is that the workouts are really good workouts. They actually have what they call a 4-dimensional profile. And so rather than basing all of your workouts on one number FTP, they actually base it on 4 different numbers. They base it on your sprint number, your 1 minute number, your 5 minute number, and your 20 minute number. And then all the workouts mix together some amount of work at all those different levels. I like the Sufferfest workouts because most of them are kind of imprecise. Like they have one that's called Hell Hath No Fury. It's a 2 by 20 minute workout, which I know both of you have done before. But they mix in these punches and surges like you would see in a race. And of course, like I said, they layer over the video of the race. So they're like, oh, Vincenzo Nibali is attacking, follow his attack, right? And then you kind of settle back into FTP once, you're back on the climb and you're just doing it. So it kind of makes what would be a 2 by 20 workout a little bit more entertaining and also a little bit more realistic in terms of what you experience in a race, because, you have all the surge and tacks and all that sort of thing. So I like Sufferfest. Ben, you used Sufferfest a long time ago, right?
Yes, I did. It's been many, many years ago. I'm not sure exactly where I used it, but I did do a couple of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were just a bunch of kind of videos that people passed around back in the day. Now they've got their own app and they do all sorts of things. And all 3 of us ride Wahoo kickers now, and Wahoo now owns them. So, Chris, have you ever done a Sufferfest workout?
Some of the old video ones. A previous job, we had a little cycling club where we would do some of the Sufferfest workouts. But I could be inclined to get back into it the way you've described it. Sounds like something I'd be into.
Yeah. I think they're good workouts. I like them. They take some getting used to. The music is the worst music you've ever heard in your life. The sense of humor is a little bit weird. But like I said, the people who use Sufferfest workouts, they buy into the culture. They think the music is great, and they love the jokes. And so I don't think the music is great. I don't love the jokes, but the workouts are pretty outstanding. And I do like the scenes of pro cyclists there, since I am a fan of pro cycling there. All right, let's talk about Trainer Road. So all 3 of us used Trainer Road before, right?
Yes.
So I've been talking a lot. Chrissy, set us up what Trainer Road is like. How would you describe Trainer Road?
So how I would describe Trainer Road is pretty much everything I've done on here, save an FTP test, is done in erg mode, which means it basically forces you into an effort. My perception of how that typically goes in execution is if you drop your cadence below 80, your FT or your threshold is at 80% or greater, you're not able to turn the pedals anymore. Mm-hmm. It's great for being very, very prescriptive in terms of this workout needs to be at VO2 max and stretching it out to here based on where you are in your progression of a build, or doing something at more of a tempo to dial in an effort for a longer time trial kind of race. So I really appreciate the specificity of it and the progression through workouts, because they'll have series within their workouts. And just as a brand, I think Trainer Road's done a really good job. They have their own podcast and their own Instagram account where they do a lot of informative communications. And lately they've been really focusing on people that have done their FTP build program and showing their improvements in FTP. I mean, I think it's pretty compelling, and they have a lot of smart people there that get into it. I used it for a long time, but to stay engaged with it when you're not training towards a specific goal is really, really hard. But I do think it has value when you're training for a specific goal and you're in a build progress. And I find that even outside of cycling. I know, George, we've incorporated into training plans for half marathons and full marathons. I get a lot of value on doing those VO2 max workouts in a way where I'm not beating up my body like I would at the track. It just allows me to do a lot more high quality workouts in a training block without beating up my body as much. So I think that there's a ton of value in trainer road, but visually not very engaging and can feel really boring.
Yeah. I think that when we were trading email about all this before, you said that it's for purists. Right? I mean, yeah. And I think that's accurate.
Yeah, agreed. People that are very, very focused on the goal and the output, and it's like the people that would train on a trainer indoors, just looking at a white wall, like that kind of mindset. It
taps in, for me, it taps into the same part of me that wants to do my running workouts on a track. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you dial in that pace, you find it, and you can go pretty hard, but it's very precise. And so I find that sometimes I like the workouts on Trainer Road, but I find sometimes I need to do Sufferfest as a break from Trainer Road, because the workouts, even though they're still scientifically based, are less precise. And so if on Trainer Road, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do another 6 by 3 minutes at 122%. And every single one of them is exactly the same with 3 minutes rest. Like, I can't do that again. And so I'm going to do instead a Sufferfest one, which has the same general things and certainly draws on different systems, but they plug it into this sort of, cheesy race scenario, and they have all these surges and relaxations and all that sort of thing during it. And so it just makes it less precise, but at the same time, it makes it where it's not just so, mind-numbing sometimes. Mind-numbing can be good, but in Trainer Road, I think it can have some really good workouts. But yeah, I think it's for purists. Ben, do you like Trainer Road?
Yeah, I do. I was a huge Trainer Road guy before I got into Zwift, and for years. But like you say, it's extremely precise. I loved it because if my coach gave me a workout, I could go and use their workout creator and create the workout there and make it happen there on my trainer.
Workout creator's great.
Dan Arnett was my coach at that point, and I'm sure he's not much of a Trainer Road or a Zwift or even an indoor cycling kind of guy. He'd rather see me outdoors, but I like to be indoors a lot. So I thought it was good management of my time by doing things indoors. And I like the fact that Trainer Road did that. And so I was so devoted to it that I encouraged people when I lived in Macon. I actually organized a giant 20-person Trainer Road workout where we all did the same workout, and we had just this big gigantic thing in a garage that I had there, and we all were on Trainer Road plugging in the workouts. A lot of these people, that was their first time ever using a trainer. We had Wahoo actually came down and brought extra kickers and set up kickers in my garage for people that wanted to use them for the first time. And that was all using Trainer Road. Everybody got a Trainer Road trial thing, and a lot of people still use it to this day. And I still think Trainer Road is a fantastic program. I mean, it's really good. I wouldn't say it's very buggy, but like you say, you're just going to get on there. You're going to see a graph of what you've got in front of you to do. You're going to do this many minutes of this, this of this, this of this. And that's it. If you got a long workout, you're probably going to want to have a movie or some sort of music or something. Obviously, you want to have music anyway. But if it's going to be a long workout, like an Ironman workout, you're going to be on there a long time, and you're going to need something to help pass your mind, or else you're going to get bored.
For sure. But even when your mind begins to wander, to Chrissy's point, because of the precision, it keeps you locked in there, right? Whereas on Zwift or on something else like that, your mind wanders and you look down and you realize you've ridden the last 5 minutes, either harder or easier than you were kind of supposed to do. Whereas Trainer Road doesn't let you do that. If you're supposed to ride that 5 minutes at 71%, you're going to be riding at 71%. So you mentioned like bringing all those people together.
Well, Zwift does do erg mode though.
Okay.
Zwift will do erg mode in workouts if you choose it. But they also do it. You can do it the other way, where you have to pedal it, and it tells you to go up or down. It'll tell you on the screen, pedal harder or more watts or less watts, or even for that matter, your cadence. So
I did do
anyway,
a couple of the erg mode workouts on Zwift, and I will say, if you're trying to do a program where you're at 80% or more of your FTP and you need to do low cadence to work on strength stuff, you actually can keep pedaling in the 70 RPM range for 5 minutes at a time, if that's what you're trying to work on in a Zwift version of erg versus a trainer version of erg, where I never quite do that.
Yeah.
Right on. So you mentioned, Ben, a minute ago that bringing all the people together in your house to do a group workout. The preem that we're going to give to Trainer Road here is their fastest transition to group workouts. So one thing that I appreciated, and I've used Trainer Road a lot over the course of this lockdown as well, because really early on, like mid-March, they went ahead and rolled out a feature that they were clearly working on, but it wasn't quite ready. That was group workouts, and essentially what it was is you had the Trainer Road screen, which again is very straightforward. It's just blue bars telling you when you're going to be resting and when you're going to be going hard. But on that graph, they actually superimposed pictures like Zoom. And so you could see various people that you're working with, and you could talk to them, and you could all kind of suffer your way through the workout together. I appreciate the fact they rolled that out pretty quickly, and it was kind of buggy because they rolled out pretty quickly, but you could have up to 4 people together with you on the screen there while you were doing it. They actually recently upgraded it. Now you can up to 11 people on the screen with you that are actually virtually with you. Everybody's in their own house, safely doing this Trainer Road workout at their own power, at whatever the power is that's prescribed for them in particular on their individual trainer. And you're all looking at pictures of one another suffering through it together, and you're connected via audio, and you can hear one another grunt and scream and curse and all that sort of thing. When I was doing the tour of Sufferlandria last week, I was doing it with a couple of guys I know that both live around the Raleigh area, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Sufferfest doesn't have that capability. And so we all ran the workout at the same time, but we connected on Microsoft Teams. And so kind of similar to what Ben was talking about using Discord to talk to people while he was doing group rides, we'd all be together running Microsoft Teams on my computer while I was running the Sufferfest workout on my iPad. And that was cool. It worked. But Trainer Road, gets a real bonus for actually building that capability directly into their app. It's cool. And as a result, I've ended up using probably Trainer Road most consistently over the course of this lockdown, because I've been doing group workouts with a lot of people. Yeah.
Thanks.
Chrissy, have you done any of the group workouts on Trainer Road?
But George would really love to do Shasta happy hour.
Right on. There's as a coach, there is a handful of workouts that I have people do over and over and over again, be it on Trainer Road or off Trainer Road. And as Chrissy can attest, since I coached her for several years, one of my favorite go-to hours was called Shasta, which is just 7 sprints mixed into an otherwise easy ride. So very good. So Chrissy used to specifically always request having Shasta on Friday nights because it was just such a big party for her.
Yeah, it's a great way to end the week.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the last thing. Let's talk about Zwift. We talk about Sufferfest. We talked about Trainer Road. Sufferfest, by the way, has a lot of yoga and a lot of strength training in it as well. They have a lot of training plans too. Trainer Road has a lot of training plans in it. And you mentioned Chrissy, their Instagram. I don't follow them on Instagram, but their podcast is excellent. It's also very straightforward. It's about the science of cycling, but it's good. It's good and it's interesting. But there's no races. There's challenges inside of Sufferfest, of course. There used to be some challenges inside of Trainer Road, but not anymore. And so if you want to race, Zwift really is the place to go. And that's where I found myself spending more time racing over the course of the last little while. So best virtual racing, be it a multi-stage tour like the Tour for All, which they've been doing, which Ben, I think you've done the Tour for All, and group rides. They have crits, they have hill climbs, they have road races, they have time trials. Zwift has 50,000 users, something like that. And as a result of that, they have a wide variety of offerings of all sorts, including a wide variety of racing offerings. So, Ben, you're the Zwift guy, as you said during the intro, and you're kind of the person that Chrissy and I turn to with our questions about Zwift. So why don't you kick us off and talk to us about Zwift and what you liked about it?
Yeah. When I first came to Zwift, I was coming for Trainer Road, so I was like, okay, you got a lot to live up to with Trainer Road. So I looked on there and I said, okay, you can have workouts, structured workouts using ERG based workouts where I can program it in and you have to pedal that. That's it. They had that. So you can, and my second thing was I would look for was, can I program my own workouts? Can I do custom workouts my way? That was the case. Later on, they actually added where anything that you put into Training Peaks, which is where I've got all of my entire history of endurance sports is in Training Peaks. They actually have it where it automatically goes in it. That was very important. But I was already in Zwift by the time they created that. But that's initially what I got in. So I thought, well, I can get into do this kind of workout like I do in Trainer Road, but I get the added benefit that I'm riding with people, that I see other cyclists. I'm going up and down hills. I get a visual with those same things that I got in Training Peaks. So I said, that was initially what I got in. So I said, when I do these long workouts, it'll probably be a little easier. And I started doing that. I trained that way. Like I said, 2018, lots of like 5-hour workouts where I'm riding on a trainer for that long. And I was doing these things on a time trial bike in the virtual Zwift world alone. And so, but it was kind of interesting. I think I tested a few things, like I did a race or something just to see. But, at that point, that was really kind of all my experience was about. Over the course of the last year and a half or so, I'd say probably mostly within the last year, I started getting more into the social aspect of it. So I started doing group rides and getting to know people. Now I do like regular group rides that I do all the time now. I've made friends in other states, literally in other countries. Like I ride every Sunday with a group, and one of them is a lady from Britain, and we now talk on Zwift or on Discord, I mean, and so I hear her voice, and I hear her talking British accent, and I hear all the other people. I got people from New Jersey, I got people from Missouri, all over the place. They were all on there together at one time from all over the world, literally, and we're talking and all that. So it's kind of become a lot more of a social aspect for me. I also then joined a team where there are now online Zwift teams that literally some of them have thousands of members, and they put together teams that do races together. So you can get together with this team, and they will organize you in like a D group or a C group or a B or an A or lead or whatever, and you can go do races. So in the last couple of months, I started doing time trials, team time trials, it is. So I'll end up in a group of 7 or 8 people. Most of them I've never met any of the people, but they're from all over mostly from Canada and U.S. and I had one Australian. And we ride in a team time trial event that literally has thousands of people in it and hundreds of teams, and just super fun. And it's super challenging because some of the races I've done really well, and next week I'll get dropped. I'm having a hard time staying on the back. It's been a lot of fun. I had to take a break from it because I was racing too much, and enjoying the social aspect of it a lot too. It's just fun because you're on there, the people every week, and you get on their Discord and you start talking with each other. Another thing that I've kind of becoming more aware of with Zwift is that Zwift is of the mindset that they don't really think of themselves as trying to reproduce cycling exactly as it would be in the real world. They are trying, their effort is to make it into, they call it gamifying it. In other words, adding aspects to it that you still get the real world experience with cycling, but you get other things that kind of add to it, that add to the tactics of it, which really makes it really fun in racing, like using power-ups and things like that in the race strategically, and and it just makes it really, really interesting. And if you're riding a course, you'll be riding a course, and there will be a sprint section, there will be a KOM section, and it times you, it tells you where you're on the leaderboard. A lot of things like that kind of adds to the experience. It's almost like, like if you're doing a Strava KOM, you would have it literally on the screen right there, and okay, you got to catch up to this guy who's just in front of you, and this guy's got the best time, and you're currently in 78th, and move up to 34th if you can, and how fast can you do this? And then if you get to the end, and it'll tell you, okay, this is all your records for the last 30 days, when you went through that same segment. And it's kind of got a lot more depth of experience to me. It's definitely cartoonish. It's not real worldish. It doesn't look like a real world. It's very animated, cartoonish, not in a bad way. It actually, to me, it's kind of pleasant. It's kind of interesting because you get to do things. You'll be in a world where there's a dinosaur, or you're riding through a volcano, or you're climbing Alpe d'Huez, which is modeled after Alpe d'Huez, and a lot of things like that. And it's just a lot of fun. Combining that with the social aspect of it's kind of got me a little bit hooked. I mean, I'm on it like once or twice a day. So, although the past week I took a break, I thought I needed to take a little bit of a break, so I took a break. But anyway, that's kind of my experience with Zwift. So sorry, I hate to be such a one-sided person.
No, it's okay. But there's a lot of things in there that you said. And so a lot of things to kind of unpack with what you just said there. So Chrissy, you start.
Yeah, I think Ben had some really good call outs. So the gamification, seeing a lot of it, especially as you unlock all of this extra gear. And I don't know what I have to do to get a pair of Zip wheels, but I kind of want to get them. So some goals. And then even when you're in the game, you get the drafting boost and the arrow boost. And so it is a little bit fun to have that gamification piece. And I say this as a non-gamer, like not into games, but I like and appreciate that aspect of it. And I think the other thing you hit on that is the other thing that really keeps me going back to it, even though at first, jumping as a single user, it's not super compelling, but the group thing is huge, especially people all over the world, because you'll see, like I follow the McKinseys who are in Australia on Instagram, and I see they're talking about this Tri Bunchy Down Under group, and it rides 6:30 in the morning in Australia, but it's the middle of the afternoon here for me in Austin. So I'll jump on and ride with them, and then see people like Caroline Steffen and Lindsay Corbin and Rennie join, and they'll have this chat where you feel like you're in the middle of a pro triathlete chat board. And I don't even race triathlon anymore, and it's still really neat. So it's fun to do those kind of things. But even locally, since we're not doing group rides in the middle of COVID, a lot of the teams that do group rides and lead them are doing them now virtually on Zwift. So I get to ride with some of those same people, and the local crit has gone virtual. So when I race with some of the people I used to race with or had ridden with, and it's just fun to see those names on the leaderboard. And even if I want to do a workout, the local speed shop, it's in the basement of Mellow Johnny's. I used to go there like once or every week or two with some of my cycling teammates, and that coach was offering his workouts on Zwift. Or even if you just scroll through, you'll see that this pro triathlete has a workout set up, or Slow Twitch does their Friday chill ones, and EMJ led them. So there are all kinds of things that sound familiar that you can jump in on. And I think with the times right now, anything that's familiar is kind of attractive. So it's really nice to jump in there and see all of this familiar stuff. And so I think that's really kind of drawn me into it. And then the idea that you can race and do something really hard that hurts a lot, even if you kind of don't want to, and get that push. So it's been fun. The one thing I would call out about this, and I know we'd all had a lot of banter about it, is spinning out on Zwift going downhill, which I'd experienced some of the same on Ruby. And this is what I meant when I was talking about equipment, is my other road bike is a 5034. And so it's easier climbing. And so I would kind of have to use it on Ruby because the climbs were so much harder, but they're not in Zwift. Whatever percent grade it tells you, it's about half of what that would feel like in real life. So I use my competitive road bike, which is a 5236, because I don't have to worry about getting up the hills as much, and I cannot spin out, especially because they have the draft effect on Zwift, which the whole reason I got that bike with that gearing is in real life when you're sitting in a pack, I tend to spin out going down hills. So it's really interesting to think about your equipment like you would if you were racing in real life. So I kind of appreciate that aspect too, and all the racing does feel like if you were racing in real life and hurts at least as much when I look at like average heart rate or something from one of those races. So I appreciate a lot of things that it offers that really feel like I'm missing in life right now, just with everything being canceled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree with all that. And I think there's so many interesting things in what both of you just said. I think that, they call it, Zwift calls it a game. And I was listening to a podcast recently, not a sports podcast, a podcast called Dear Hank and John, which is Hank and John Green. And it's these two brothers that just talk about life. And John Green is the guy who wrote The Fault in Our Stars and several other things. He's on Zwift. And so, of course, as soon as I found out he was on Zwift, I went and followed him. But I now follow 4 people on Zwift, the 2 of you and a triathlete that I know from Middle Georgia named Matt Trick, and John Green, the author. But he actually referred to it as a game when he was talking about it. And so I think, like what Ben said, if you kind of let go of saying, okay, it's just like real cycling, because it's not. If you kind of can let go of that and quit expecting it to be like real cycling, then you might actually, ironically, find some of the things that, like what Chrissy says, make it kind of like real cycling. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's maybe one problem I've had with Zwift, is that I've wanted it to be more like real cycling, and it's not. And so, like the stuff with like the power-ups, for example. So power-ups, that they let you draft more, or they lighten you up, or something else like that. They give you like an extra boost, like what you would get in Super Mario Brothers or something. And like with that, I always look at those and I'm like, well, I don't like those, because you don't get those in real cycling. But you need to let go of the idea that you don't have those in real cycling, and you need to instead embrace like the game aspect of it and sort of relearn how to actually race in Zwift, as opposed to trying to apply what you've learned about racing in real life on Zwift. And I'm still kind of in that process. One thing that Chrissy said in all the emails we traded was how hard it is to actually learn Zwift, because it's so big, and the cultural onboarding for such a major thing, like it takes a while. And so we both watched all these videos and read all these things, and so I'm still in the process of kind of learning it, and I'm interested to see, and I'm going to stick with it for a little while, because I do like the racing aspects of it, but I'm interested to see how long it takes me to learn how to do it, to race it. And if I can learn, will I like it when I do? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's one of the things that I would say is that that's part of the fun part of it, is that it adds so much more things that you don't know. I mean, you know how to ride outside, you know how to do all these other things, you know what it's like to race in a race on a real road and with real people, but you don't, when you get into Zwift, there's all new levels, things that you haven't really thought through how to use. I mean, like, in Zwift, there's drafting, and then there's double draft events, where you get into draft, and there's the power-ups, and then there's also road surfaces. Like if you get on cobbles or you get on dirt in Zwift, you slow down, and they have different kind of bikes on there. So that if you choose a different bike, some people are actually in the middle of races are switching bikes in the middle of the race to change through a certain section, like getting on a mountain bike in the middle of a race that goes through a dirt section, because the mountain bike is so much faster through that section. That's part of the gamifying of it. I mean, I don't really care about doing the mountain biking part of it, but that's just kind of part of the depth of strategy that you learn. You kind of learn all the little tricks and all the little things, like which bikes are faster than others. Like I've been working for a long time now to get my Tron bike, and I'm really close now. And the Tron bike is really cool looking, but they also say it's one of the fastest too. So, so it's kind of interesting. Like another one, like if you're in a group and you're drafting, your avatar will sit up if it's in the draft. If you pull ahead, he'll get down in the drops, and you'll see him move down. So it's one of the things that, that I'm in it, I'm not in it, and then I shared with you that article about the different benefits you get from where you are in the draft pack. Like if you're 6 back or you're just behind the leader, 25% versus 33%, better drafting. But that's kind of the fun of it. You start to learn all those little tricks, and when you're in there, you can actually feel those things. You feel yourself like slowing down or speeding up, and all of a sudden you're like, man, we're just really moving. And that experience to me almost makes it feel a little more real, especially in a group. So
All right, so tell me
You know,
this.
like I
Then.
said, to me, the depth is a depth of all the other things, added things that it adds to it, the gamifying of it. Even though that's kind of I hate that word. I really hate that word. But the fact that it adds those things brings a depth of more experience. Like it creates things that to me makes it a little more real. Actually, it's weird, but gamifying it actually makes it more real.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting and excellent point. Yeah, and choosing the different bikes, and even in real life, the different bikes like Chrissy's done. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Okay, so tell me this, and so I've done a few races on there, and some of them have gone better than others. But there's definitely one race that I've done twice, and the first time I did it, I got dropped out of the gate. The second time I did it, I was better, like prepared for what I was going to see. And so I was able to stick on the wheels for about the first third of the race, but without getting too technical about it, and trying not to sound arrogant here, it was a B level race. The A level races were supposed to be for the fastest, strongest people, right? So it was a B level race. I stuck on it for about a third, and I was on my limit for that third of the race that I stuck in, and then eventually I got dropped. I should not have gotten dropped given the power that I was putting in, like in a B level race. And
Right.
my knee jerk reaction is, y'all are a bunch of damn cheaters. Like, I don't know how you're cheating, but you're cheating, right? Like I don't, like, there's no way that I'm putting in 320 watts for 15 minutes and I'm getting dropped. Like that's not going to happen in a B race. And so tell me this, is that because I just haven't learned how to do it yet? And just because I'm just going harder than I need to, or is it because in fact people are cheating?
I would say that to me, the biggest problem and the complaint that I hear, I follow a lot of podcasts that are Zwift oriented podcasts, is that there's a lot of sandbaggers on there. There's a lot of people that are not in where they're supposed to be. And, that's a problem for Zwift. Zwift's having actually, they understand they have the problem, because I've heard their upper management talk about it on podcasts. But their answer to it is not as I don't think is quite as serious as it should be. So that's where I kind of brought in the whole Zwift Power. Zwift Power is another company, or it's a website basically, that takes the data out of Zwift. They've gotten permission to take the data out of Zwift, and they parse out, and they call out sandbaggers in this. I actually got called out for being a sandbagger in a D race when I should have been in a C. And that was when I learned, okay, why did this happen? Why did I not get included in those results? Well, it's because I was racing out of my category, and they pulled me. They basically eliminated me and gave someone else the crown inside of there. So that's kind of where they kind of take the data and they say, okay, these people they're not where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It could be also that perhaps maybe some of the algorithms that create the reality of it, which I think all of these sites that we're talking about probably this is very advanced math to do all this. And like, where we had talked about earlier about how Ruby wasn't quite as good as Full Gas at getting that feel to it. And that's probably some of that too. But I think a lot of it is, and I've seen it so many times in races, is that there's people that, like I race only in C now. And there's people that are there that are clearly probably top level B's or A's. They're still there. I mean, I race, when I race, I'm at 2.9 to 3.0 watts per kilogram. The upper end of that is supposed to be 3.1. And then you got people in the race that are pulling out 4.1 to 4.5 watts per kilogram, and they're winning the thing in Zwift. So when you go to Zwift Power, when they parse it out, they'll parse it out. They have all this programming there, and then you'll say, okay, they took them out of it. They were the sandbaggers, and I like that. I like the way that they do that. So they kind of give you a little bit more peace of mind that. Yeah. You still get dropped. I mean, I've done some crits and I got dropped. I was in one where I was right there till the end, and then right at the end, the other guy's searching. I was giving everything I had, and I just said, you know what? That's the way the game went. Struggle makes you better. So if I'm having a hard time, if it's really super hard for me, well, just suck it up and do better next time. Keep working at it.
All right, Ben, I'll write that on my training room wall. I'll write that on the wall back here, and I'll say Ben Holiday says I need to suck it up and quit complaining and thinking that everybody's cheating on Zwift. So we got to wrap it up, not only because we've been talking for a while, but because I just got a low battery warning on my computer here. But so let's kind of wrap it up real quick. Give us kind of like your big takeaways from this overall experiment, Chrissy.
Wow, big takeaways. My big takeaway is that the platform that you might want to spend the most time on has a lot to do with what are your overall long-term goals. How do you want to get there? So what are your like session, weekend, week out goals? And then what motivates you? Because on its face, I really liked the experience at Ruby per se, but then just by default, where I'm spending a lot of my time happens to be on Zwift just because of the social aspect of it and my proclivity to kind of gravitate towards something that, everybody else is doing because it feels like that's where the party is. So it's interesting to kind of look at that dichotomy of what you personally enjoy versus what actually, gets you on the bike every day.
Yep. I would say that probably for me that I think it was very interesting to see how many things were really actually out there and experience what other alternatives are out there. I'm actually aware of another platform that none of us have tried because it's still in beta. It's closer to being like a Zwift, but a little bit more realistic looking. So I think all of these companies, technologies competing against one another is some point in the future, there's going to be something even better than all of this. It may be another company or one of these companies just really hits the fast track and does a lot better job. One thing I would say is that, especially with this COVID thing coming up, this was kind of like a godsend to be able to keep racing in my life. All of everything racing went away. You could not do events anymore, nothing to do. So for me, it was like the first thing I did was what I'd already planned. As soon as I got done with Challenge Roth, I was going to start racing on Zwift. And so as soon as it was over, I said, hey, I'm ready to join a team time trial race. And that's what I did. So to me, that's of all of this, that's kind of my takeaways is that I'm really impressed by the technology overall that everybody's coming up with. Everybody's putting out ideas. Everybody's trying things, putting it out there. And I can't wait to see what the future is. At some point in the future, we may see something that looks so realistic, just like the real ones, but actually be function with other riders and people going different directions, just like Zwift does. It's only going to get better. This whole thing is just, it's really kind of cool, and it also gives you that ability to do it indoors. It's convenient and it's safe. You don't have to worry about getting hit by a car or the weather, getting struck by lightning for that matter.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think that all three of us, we opened this by talking about how long we've been doing indoor workouts and how things have changed over the course of that time. When I think about the first workouts I did indoors on my dumb trainer in 2008, and just how much the technology changed from 2008 to 2015 in terms of like smart trainers, and then all these online platforms now, I was kind of blown away from even when I first said, hey, who wants to volunteer to try out some of these different platforms for me? How many different platforms there are. And to Chrissy's point, you can find one that really matches you. And so even though like Be Cool, for example, wasn't really for me, I'm sure like that works really, really, really well for some people. And even when I think about like which ones I like at this moment in my life, at this particular moment in time, given the situation in the world and my health status and my goal or lack of goal races right now, like certain ones fit me that might not fit me 2 months from now, 3 months from now, a year from now. And so you can really find the ones that cater to your needs and either address your strengths or address your weaknesses depending on what it is you're looking for in those platforms. So yeah. So given that, Chrissy, you go first. Which ones are you keeping?
So I have subscriptions for Ruby and for Zwift, and I keep in the back of my mind.
You have one for Ruby?
Well, because my husband liked it, so he signed up. And the thing is, their subscription model is really good. So we have a house subscription that I just got to piggyback on. And then back in my mind, I'm like, oh, really enjoyed riding full gas though. So if we can't ride outside as much. And I think husband already canceled the trainer road, so it doesn't renew. So I better get all the riding out of that over the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked a lot of them, but have spent more time probably on Zwift just because of the social component and not having that in any other aspects of my life right now, just given the conditions.
And it'll be interesting to see when you do have the social stuff back, whether you in fact stick with Zwift. Yeah. I think, by the way, that what I found is that the maximum that you really can have is like 3. Like, I don't think there's quite enough space in your life for 4. And currently I have 4, and I think there's really only space in your life for 3. So, and if you take a deep dive into one of them, like Ben has into Zwift, then there's only room for like 2 tops. But anyway, Ben, you're obviously keeping Zwift. You can keep in the others?
Yeah, I think I may keep full gas. I really liked it.
Really?
I think I want to go back and ride some of the courses, because I felt like that was kind of like, sometimes, like today was one of those days. Like sometimes I like the social aspect. Most of the time I do, and sometimes it actually compels me to get in there. Like, I know they're going to expect me in the ride today because they know who I am.
Yeah.
But then, some days I just want to zone out. I don't want anybody. I want to turn my music on and zone out and not have that interaction. And it would be kind of cool to be on a real course, on a day, especially on a day when I can't really get outside. I still have obviously I'm here in the gap, so I can get outside when I want. But some days it's rainy, snowy, stormy, whatever, and that still gives me that option. So I'm pretty sure that Zwift's going to be like the dominant of my time. But full gas, if I had to, if Zwift closed tomorrow, the full gas will be where I'd go.
Interesting. Not what I expected to say. So good to know.
Yeah.
So like I said just a minute ago, I'm currently subscribed to 4 of them, and I'm committed probably to keep all 4 of these through the end of July, just given kind of the virtual challenges and stuff I've signed up for, or that I'm planning to undertake over the course of the next little while here. Probably the one that I will be keeping long-term, the one I'm most confident I'll be keeping long-term, is Trainer Road. I've been on Trainer Road for a long time, and then their addition of the virtual group workouts, being able to do those actually inside of there, that was a big boost for me. And so now, like, even the athletes that I coach, I can say, hey, let's do a workout together on Trainer Road, and I get to spend time with some of my athletes while we're both doing a workout, and that's not something that I always get to do, and it's something I haven't gotten to do on a bike in 5 years. And so that's pretty cool. I know I'll be keeping that one. I'm still subscribed to Sufferfest. I have been for the last little while. Like I said, it's a good sort of break from Trainer Road from time to time. And so it provides a good counterbalance to that. But I'm also thinking of doing a Knights of Sufferlandria challenge, which is where you do 10 Sufferfest workouts in a single day. I'm thinking about doing that in July. And so I need to keep it releasing that. Zwift, I like all the racing on Zwift, and I'm considering doing a V Everesting as well in July. And so I need to keep that, because you can only do that on Zwift. I wonder whether when things start opening back up and when I start running more, because all I'm doing right now pretty much is cycling. I ran yesterday for the first time in over a month. And I wonder when I start running more and when I actually put a running race on the calendar, whether I'll still have room for Zwift, or if I'll still want it, because I think it provides that short-term racing for me. I could, if we got off this podcast and I was super fired up, I could probably go online and find a race on Zwift in the next hour. And that's pretty cool.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. And then the last one for me is full gas. I kind of gushed over it when we talked about it a little while ago. I think full gas is great. I like being on the front of that. I'm signed up for one of the challenges around Virtual RAM. They have a daily challenge where you just do one ride over the course of 12 days. And so it's definitely not as hard as RAM or Race Across the West would be. But so I'll be doing that from June 16th to June 28th. So I'll be keeping it at least then. But I think really and truly, if I think about, okay, when things start turning back to normal, I'm probably not going to be doing a whole lot of just like long zone 2 rides. That's just not usually a part of my training program when I'm running and training for marathons. And so I'm willing to bet full gas would probably be the one I'm going to drop. But I'm not going to drop any of them for at least another couple months here. So we'll see. We'll see. Ben and Chrissy, this was the epic podcast that I hoped it would be.
Awesome.
So Chrissy, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together. I enjoyed the whole process of experimenting with all of these, and I think it was a good learning experience for me and got me out of my comfort zone. So grateful for this opportunity. Thanks, George.
Right on. Ben, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun being here again, and it was nice to get to know Chrissy and make a new friend. We're on Strava together now, and on follow each other on Zwift as well. All of us now, all one big happy family.
Right on. Very good. Thanks again, y'all. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you were willing to put so much time into this. Thanks everybody for listening. That'll do it for another edition of the Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast. We appreciate you joining us. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pleasant Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Pleasant Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Most Pleasant Exhaustion. And you can always download our podcast from Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, ITL Coaching and Performance at itlcoaching.com, on Twitter at ITL Coaching, at Facebook, facebook.com/ITL Coaching and Performance, and on Instagram, ITL Coaching. You can check out Blue Pineapple Travel at bluepineappletravel.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/bluepineappletravel, or on Instagram, Blue Pineapple Travel. And finally, SlayRX. You can find them at SlayRX.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/here4SlayRX. That's the number 4, here4SlayRX. On Instagram at here4SlayRX, again the number 4, and on Twitter at officialSlayRX. Don't forget the discount code Pleasant2020. On behalf of Patrick Ollinger and Michelle Frank, this is George Darden. We appreciate you joining us on the Most Pleasant Exhaustion podcast.